Thank you. Senator Blunt?
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Rich, I want to get to another topic here. You mentioned in your testimony that examples of data were account credentials, health data not covered by HIPAA, and precise geolocation data. Senator Schatz and I, both on this committee, worked in the last Congress to try to get more attention to facial recognition standards. I wonder if you'd talk about that, and then if anybody else has an opinion on the use of this data and how and the lack of standards for collecting that kind of data that's out there. Everything from whether you're on a screen and looking at something and you're recognized facially, or you're walking through a drugstore. There's all kinds of this out there, and wonder what you're thinking about it as one of the things we should be concerned about.
Absolutely. I didn't happen to mention biometric data in my testimony, but it's absolutely part of the class of sensitive data that should be protected by any data security law. It also has a lot of privacy issues associated with it. And right now, other than the FTC Act and the extent to which it falls, for example, under HIPAA, which is still only covers a segment of health data, there's really no federal law that mandates security for biometric data.
All right, Mr. Felton.
Facial recognition particularly is an area that poses a lot of risks for consumers. Because of the way that facial images can be captured at a distance and used without consent or even awareness of the consumer. So I think it is an area that requires special attention, even relative to the already serious other security issues.
Mr. Lee?
They've certainly made great points about all the issues of capture. From our perspective is, if your biometric is somehow compromised, you can't change your biometric. You can't change your fingerprint. You can't change your face, your retina scan, your voice print. So we need to be very careful about how we protect that kind of data, and we have to have very specific ways of helping people whose identities are compromised when that biometric data is indeed compromised. And we don't really have a good framework for that today.
Mr. Amarella?
Thank you. I think definitely biometric data, including facial recognition data, should be considered sensitive and should face heightened privacy and security requirements. I do think we would want to be careful not to completely eliminate the opportunities to use it in innocuous and innovative ways, but totally recognize there is a bigger threat here, and it makes sense to put extra precautions around it.
Well, you know, one thing people don't want is walking through a grocery store and then suddenly start getting ads for products. So you get a little of that by looking up anything while you're in the grocery store, from the geolocation side of this, but also from whether it's a grocery store or whatever else. While I've got Ms. Rich and Mr. Felton here, the FTC, you both really well grounded there, is trying to move toward more open hearings. Your view of whether that's the challenges there and whether that's a good idea or not.
I don't believe the FTC is sharing non-public information in those open hearings, so I see nothing wrong with it. There has been some controversy about whether all the information that's needed has been circulated prior to the open meetings, but I think being more open is a perfectly legitimate thing to do.
Mr. Felton?
Ensuring that non-public information is not shared at those hearings, if we assume that, then I think this is a good idea. The transparency about what it is that the commissioners are concerned about and openness to the public is really useful in a lot of different areas. So I think for the commission to do an appropriate part of its work in public is a positive step.
Seem to be some early transition questions about how to give notice and how much notice would be necessary, and if notice itself sort of takes away from looking at what the commission is really talking about. But I may want to follow up with the both of you. Does I don't know, I think this is pretty much an FTC question. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. Senator Tester?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank you for